From frame flex to new laws to changes in the RV industry, it's been a big year for RV news. And today, we're going to round up the top stories of 2024. I'm Jason Epperson, and this is RV Miles. Welcome back, everybody. It's been a wild year, and I thought it'd be good at the end of it to do a recap, as these things tend to be fairly popular and help us remember where we've been and where we're going. I'm actually going to do two of these videos. Today's is going to be about RVing and camping, and then I'm going to do another one that is about national parks and public land, so you can be looking forward to that next week or the week after. There'll be a bit of that stuff in this one as it relates to camping, but for the most part, I'm going to stick to the RV industry and stuff that affects campers. First up, we kicked the year off with the end of RV Magazine by its owner, Camping World, who had only fairly recently combined the long-loved Motorhome and Trailer Life magazines into the one RV magazine. I think a lot of people understand that change, but then the whole thing spun into the Wild Sam magazine, which really had nothing to do with RV Magazine. It's an interesting magazine on its own, but a lot of people were unhappy that their RV Magazine subscription was converted into Wild Sam. Motorhome and Trailer Life were the way people learned about RVing, that and RV clubs, which we'll talk about in a bit, for so many years pre-internet. So it's sad to see their legacy gone. Also, early in the year, Camping World teased that it was interested in selling off the Good Sam brand, which includes their extended warranties, their roadside assistance, credit card, and more, but it seems little came of that. More on Camping World a bit later. But even without RV Magazine, which had sort of become just a catalog for Camping World anyway, there are some better RV magazines out there, including the sponsor of today's video, RV Destinations Magazine. If you're like us and you love pouring through travel magazines looking for your next RV adventure, from popular RV locations to incredible hidden gems, RV Destinations is a travel magazine superstar. Featuring stunning imagery, campground reviews, and helpful travel insights, RV Destinations has it all. It'll have you planning and dreaming in no time. You can save 30% on an annual subscription through December 31st. That's the best offer they have out there. 30% off when you use the code MARY at rvdestinations.com. That's MERRY to subscribe. And just like Abby and me, be inspired to start planning your next RV road trip. I'll put a link in the description. The Florida RV Super Show in Tampa in January is really the first big public RVing event of the year, and it was the public's first real look at a trend that would really take off this year, the rise of destination trailers. Destination trailers are heavy suckers that are designed to usually sit at a seasonal resort or be moved up to a few times a year, but the two trailers that had everybody talking in January were smaller, more towable destination trailers. They had the look of a destination trailer, but a little bit smaller size, like the Ibex and No Boundaries RV Suite and the Timberwolf Mini Loft. That trend would later explode into a flurry of all sorts of destination trailers, big and small and different, with lots of interior design at the RV Dealer Open House this past September. One of the things people love about these big destination trailers is the decks and the patios they put on a lot of them. And boy, were there a lot of decks and patios at the Dealer Open House, not just on the destination trailers, but all sorts of trailers, especially big fifth wheels. It was the thing that was everywhere. You may not have seen much of it on dealer lots yet, but I promise you, you'll see a lot of it in the RV show season around the corner, kicking off again in January at Tampa. And you may just see one of those big RVs with a deck on it, designed by some people you know. I'll have more details on that another day. This year was expected to be a marginally better year for RV production than 2023, which was frankly a disaster after the big pandemic boom ended. The RV Industry Association predicted around 350,000 units to be produced this year, and they had to revise that down a bit a few times. It looks like it's going to come in around somewhere around 324,000, barely beating last year's 319,000. For context, the record year was 2021 with over 600,000 RVs built, while the average for the 5 years pre-pandemic was around 450,000 a year. At this point, The RV industry isn't expecting to do much better in 2025. The predictions are again around 350,000 units. But that's not all bad news for consumers. It should mean reduced prices and more continued competition and perhaps even some innovation as well. One of the largest RV manufacturers, Grand Design, a subsidiary of Winnebago, made a lot of waves this year, beginning with what may have been the biggest story of the year, frame flex or frame failure, whatever you want to call it. People get mad if you use the term frame flex, but a lot of us actually use that term because that's what people are searching for and that's what's out there. That's just the thing that the zeitgeist has come up with. And contrary to popular belief, I think it does describe the problem. People think it was a term invented by manufacturers to make the issue sound less serious. It's really not. The concern is primarily big fifth wheels whose frame is flexing out of specification. All frames are supposed to flex under stress, but they're not supposed to stay that way. There's been a growing number of Grand Design fifth wheel owners complaining about all sorts of problems related to their frames, including cracked fiberglass, slides that won't move in and out, and windows and doors that pop out or open on the road. Frame issues can happen with any manufacturer, and a lot of folks would like to put the blame, partially at least, at frame manufacturer Lippert's feet, but also it has a lot to do with how the box of the RV is attached to the frame and how it is designed to be used on that frame by the RV manufacturer. For instance, in many instances, there are not enough or undersized bolts being used at Grand Design, and they've been fixing a bit of that on some past customers' units. But there are so many unknowns. What we have is a situation where the buck is being passed around and a lack of data to really know the extent of the problem. Grand Design first pushed back at the idea that they were having any more problems than other manufacturers, but eventually they extended their frame warranty after all of the pushback, and they made it transferable and retroactive. I do think that was a very big step. Nobody really has a better warranty than Grand Design of the big manufacturers, but obviously the proof comes down to whether they actually allow warranty claims or they deny them. You can extend your warranty all you want if you're denying claims. There's still a lot of unanswered questions about frame flex, for which Grand Design is being investigated by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Perhaps that investigation will reveal more. Grand Design made the news for another big reason this year, though. They launched their first motorized units at an event in New York City, of all places. The Lineage Series M has just one floor plan at the moment. Will we see another floor plan or two in Tampa? I don't know. But I do know we'll see the debut of the first Grand Design Super C, which will be on the Ford F600 chassis. The state of New Mexico made waves when it proposed a dramatic increase to its park entrance fees and its popular annual camping pass. Some of the proposed changes include doubling per vehicle and camping fees for non-residents and raising the annual day use pass rate to $150 for non-residents. Annual camping passes, this is really the only state that has an annual camping pass, could go up to $300 for residents and $600 for non-residents. You pay $600 a year and you can use a campsite as long as it's a no hookup campsite whenever you want, and then you pay to have a hookup campsite. Those proposals were meant to be put in place earlier this year, and then that moved to January of 2025, but they're still proposals and they haven't been finalized, so we don't know exactly what's happening in New Mexico yet. I'll certainly keep you posted and let me know if you know or have heard something. Similarly, and let me know if you've heard anything on this one too, because I haven't recently, the proposed increase in long-term vehicle area fees for areas held for designated long-term camping were met with some anger, but also some saying it was not really that big of a deal. The Bureau of Land Management long-term visitor areas in southern Arizona and California are places where people have traditionally camped in the winter for decades, and the use of these lands by RVers has been increasing. The long-term visitor areas were created in 1983 to provide limited resources to the people that camp there and protect the land from overuse. Part of that overuse was just the RVs moving around every 14 days when they reached the stay limit. and that's still pretty standard for BLM boondocking outside of LTVA. So this was put in place to keep people from moving around. You pay the fee, you could stay longer, but it actually helped protect the resources as well. Currently, for $180, you get access to stay on that land, access to a dump station, water and trash service from September 15th to April 15th. If you don't want to stay the whole winter, you can pay $40 for any 14-day period. The fee to stay in an LTVA has not increased since 2008. About 7,000 permits were sold that year, and with just over 9,000 sold this past winter, there's been a 30% increase in visitation in 16 years. The Bureau of Land Management says 100% of those fees return to the LTVA areas, and what's more, there's a shortfall. Permit revenue in 2024 was $849,000, but staffing expenses alone were over $1.1 million. BLM proposes to increase the current fees from $180 to $600 per long-term permit, and from $40 to $200 per short-term permit, although they're increasing the length of that short-term permit from 14 days to 30 days. So really big increases. But again, to my knowledge, that also has yet to be finalized. And for this winter, permit prices are remaining the same. California has been the hotspot for lots of RV and camping news this year. Of course, this whole motorhome ban issue, which really isn't a ban. I'm as guilty as anyone for putting that in a thumbnail, but it's going to reduce dramatically the availability of motorhomes in at least California and 4 other states in 2025 at this point: New York, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and Washington. Oregon has recently decided to delay the ruling for a year. Long story short, the Advanced Clean Truck regulation from the California Air Resources Board is requiring big truck chassis, which includes RVs, to be 11% zero emissions in 2025, or for the manufacturer to buy credits from other manufacturers who have an excess. Chassis maker Freightliner told motorhome maker Newmar that it would not be supplying chassis to be sold in these states this coming year, and manufacturers have been kind of at a loss. But there's been a lot of talk between CARB and the RV industry, and I do think something is going to get worked out. At the very least, these credits are going to be bought by some of these manufacturers, which is going to make motorhomes a little bit more expensive in those states, but it is still possible, and it probably is going to happen. That said, it's still reliant on the folks like Freightliner and Spartan to supply the chassis, and there are some other California regulations that went into place that may be making that harder and harder for them to justify as well. So I'll have some more information on this on the next news roundup. I know there's already some other stuff on the way for me to talk about, so stay tuned for that. California also made the news for a big change in their lemon law, which some say made things easier for manufacturers. Some say it made things easier for customers to sue. But the bottom line is that in California, lemon law cases were clogging up the judicial system, and something had to be done. But California in general has had a very strong lemon law that really applies to all consumer products, not just vehicles. And it's still one of the strongest in the nation, even with the changes that they made to it this year, essentially requiring arbitration before taking things to court. And let's not forget that California banned the little green 1-pound disposable propane bottles as well, though I think their time is really long gone. They're very difficult to get recycled in lots of places, and it's so much cheaper to just carry a refillable propane bottle at this point. Big RV clubs made big news this year. The Escapees organization sold to Harvest Hosts, and the FMCA changed its name to the Family RV Association back in September, sort of. The rebranding has yet to actually happen. Things are a little slow over there. They also had a big price hike in membership fees as membership declines and the cost of providing member services increases. Dealership chain Lazy Days had a rough year, which involved the loss of some leadership and culminated with the sell-off of about 30% of its locations to competitor Camping World, who also took a big share of ownership in Lazy Days as part of the transaction. Starlink debuted its mini dish. The long-awaited small-scale DC-powered dish underwhelmed mainly due to its price. Elon Musk hinted just weeks before its release that it would be near half the price of the standard Starlink dish with half the performance, but you'd have it in a small package. It is less powerful, and the router is in the dish instead of a separate device that you can put into your RV's cabin, but it turned out to be more expensive than the standard standard dish and originally was tied to its own limited data plan. In the months since, it's now available across most Starlink data plans, but for its price, it's still not the low power game changer folks were hoping for. Most users are best off with the standard Starlink dish still. And finally, the sad, horrific destruction from hurricanes this year, particularly Hurricanes Helene and Milton. Helene caused vast destruction through areas of North Carolina that never get any sort of weather like that. It leveled all sorts of homes and businesses, including campgrounds, many of which are still struggling to recover or will never come back. The silver lining was the heartwarming support of the RV community towards some of these campgrounds. Many people who were annual patrons booked stays that they knew they wouldn't be able to use just so the campground could get a little cash. There's still a huge need for disaster relief for some of these places. I'll share again in the description a link to the Outdoor Hospitality Industry Association's foundation. 100% of the funds will go to RV park and campground owners that have faced major destruction in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia. That's it for this RV and camping news roundup. As you can see, we've covered a lot of stuff this year. And if you enjoy what we do, consider becoming a Mile Marker member. It's $7 a month or $70 a year. You get 2 months free. And right now we're doing a special where you get 1 month free if you do the monthly membership. So you can just come check it out. You get extra podcast episodes. You get a monthly live stream. We have an online book club. We do fantasy football. We have a Facebook group, more stuff like that. I hope you'll consider joining us there. But if not, just hit the like button on this video and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye, everybody.